The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., a case that still stirs debate and conspiracy theories. Pause for effect. Was this the act of a lone gunman, or something larger, a hidden plot? Martin Luther King Jr. was more than a leader. He was a symbol of hope, advocating for change and equality in America. His iconic speeches, his marches, his dream for a just world, these fueled a movement that swept across the nation. As King's influence grew, so did his messages. By the late 1960s, he was not only calling for civil rights, but was also condemning America's involvement in the Vietnam War and advocating for economic justice for the poor. But as Martin Luther King Jr. spoke out, not everyone was listening with approval. To some in power, his words were a threat. The FBI, led by Director J. Edgar Hoover, had been closely watching King, labeling him as, quote, the most dangerous Negro in America. Some believe that King's activism and his fight for peace and equality placed him in direct opposition to powerful interests in both government and corporate spheres. The official story names James Earl Ray as the man behind King's assassination. Ray was arrested and convicted, but his guilt has long been questioned. Was Ray the real killer, or was he a convenient scapegoat? To understand this theory, let's look at some key events leading up to that tragic day. 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. delivers his famous I Have a Dream speech, igniting hope for civil rights. 1967, King begins to openly oppose the Vietnam War, arguing that the war diverts attention and resources away from domestic poverty. April 3, 1968, the night before his death, King gives his haunting I've been to the mountaintop speech, expressing a premonition of his fate. April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, sparking outrage and sorrow across the nation. April 4, 1968 evening, James Earl Ray is arrested and swiftly blamed for the crime. Martin Luther King Jr.'s family has never been satisfied with the official explanation. They have long believed that James Earl Ray was framed, and that his role in King's death was part of a larger conspiracy. King's family has even petitioned the government to reopen the case, citing inconsistencies in evidence and unanswered questions about Ray's involvement. But why would anyone target King? As he expanded his advocacy to include economic justice in opposition to the Vietnam War, King became a critic of not just racial discrimination, but also capitalism and war profiteering. His Poor People's Campaign aimed to unite Americans across race and class, which some argue made him a threat to powerful political and economic interests. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. has left a shadow over history, one that continues to raise questions and stir debate. Was this the act of a lone gunman, or was it the result of a coordinated effort to silence a voice for justice?